she was always overreacting. That is what the man made her feel like. And yet he's the one creating all this, creating the doubt. Yeah. It wasn't until she met her friend that told her, but you don't smile anymore. What is going on with you? That she realized that she had lost herself with this man. She didn't also remember when she was last happy, she last smiled. And it took her a year after that to leave that man. But it wasn't easy because the man had made her feel like, he's doing her a favor. So eh, leaving wasn't one of the first options. And right now, she's a happy woman. You see her smiling, she's back to business. Things are okay. I think, like Roger said, that some of the things we do for society because society will say it will stigmatize you as a failure, as one who is an off layer. Let them say what they want. At the end of the day, I think if you can find yourself, that is okay. That is what I'll basically say about, yeah. Another one that I had written down to give you as an example was of Tina and Marcus. Marcus used to be the guy. I mean, these be all examples I'm giving are because of based on women and men, and it's the men who are being that way. I don't know much about men. Maybe you guys who are out there can also give your take on how women have been toxic in your relationships. All I know is for us, we know how to cut you off from your relatives, where you can't, help or deal with relatives anymore. And we can really reduce you down at home, where we make you feel like you're not a man anymore if you are not providing. You're not a man if you're not able to get me the latest phone. You're not a man if you cannot get me that car. We can do that. But again, I want to hear from you, gentlemen, your experiences on how we have been toxic in relationships. And Roger says, Lillian, remember this. There is some bad friends. I hope, Lillian, you remember that there are some bad friends. That's why the man can try to disconnect you from friends. And Lillian says, I agree, Rogers, that there are some bad friends. However, total isolation from friends and family is a sign of a toxic person. Rogers, I agree totally with Lillian. If a person is totally, you know, cutting you off, from your friends, from your relatives or family, that's a toxic person. He needs help. And while he's getting it, you need to be away from him because I don't think he will leave you the same by the time he gets the treatment. That is if he realizes he needs the treatment or help. But some people do it intentionally, really, Rogers, and they just cut you off family. Simply because I know of someone who said, me, I don't want my wife to have any relationship with his family members. Because once there is a relationship, then they'll come visiting. I'll have to income money to take care of them when they come visiting. If friends come over, then she'll go to their places, see nice things and want them, and I'm not in position to provide, not at this point. So you see, he was cutting her off, people that would help her. We all need emotional support at some point. Life can throw at you different kinds of things. Sometimes it's just luck. And you going and sitting with friends and laughing about hair days or other things can really help you cope. And maybe it is sickness of children or lack of them or anything. So we really need family and we need friends. And much as Roger says they are bad friends, true, they are bad friends, but not all my friends that you found me with could be bad. There could be some that are okay. Family members can never be bad, that you really have to disconnect me from them in order to stay with you. I don't think all family members can be bad. Family members are family members. They were there before even you. I was giving an example of Tina and Marcus. Marcus showered Tina with gifts, then started criticizing her. Then he started ignoring her completely before repeating the first phase of love. And Tina was confused. Those uh, toxic relationships really leave you confused. At one time, he's beating you, next, he's taking you on holiday. I know of a man who used to do things to the lady, and then after that would be like, how do you feel if you go on a trip to Dubai? You know, and pay for the ticket, and the next thing here in Dubai, and you go shopping, she was excited, she would leave. Comes back to the same thing. Then the man is like, how about if you go to UK and visit relatives? And kept her in that cycle. But it gets to a point where you are actually lost. You don't know what is right, what is wrong. Excuse me, what you should do or what you shouldn't do. So I'm thinking a toxic relationship is one that one should actually run from. It keeps you on an emotional roller coaster. It creates trauma, yeah, bends, it's addictive, and it's very hard to break away from a toxic relationship. That when I say roller coaster, it's because at some point it's really on the high of passion or, you know, love, affection. It is intense. And then the next thing is that drop where you don't even know where you belong. When you don't know whether I'm loved or I'm not loved, whether I'm seen or I'm not seen, whether I'm beautiful or I'm not beautiful, whether I'm appreciated or I'm not appreciated. Because at some point it makes you feel like you are it. And after you've accepted, oh my goodness, that's when the real them comes out and they start belittling you, devaluing you, criticizing you, controlling you, and they leave you in a loop where you don't even know where you belong. So, and it's addictive. You get used to that, and you're like, you keep having the hope. He's done this to me, but he's always got his moments. We tend to give those excuses. Remember, this video is for anyone who has ever thought or asked, why can't I leave? It is for you. If you've seen these signs, you need to make up your mind and and decide on what you should do with your life. Why people stay? I ask, why do people stay? All the time I ask, why do people stay where they are hurting? Why do they stay where it's hurting? It's unexplainable because a person reduces you to nothing, but you stay. I guess because of the different reasons that we have given. Lillian has said because of financial dependency. Rogers has said because you have nowhere else to go. There are so many reasons and it's painful, but we stay. And Jamie has said because you can believe a lie that has been told to you over and over, and you choose to stay because then it feels like this person is doing you a favor being with you, and there's no one else that can take you once this one has left. And so you stay in a painful relationships. Why do people stay? The answers are not simple. For me, this is my research. It is the trauma. Yeah. Attachment trauma is one of those reasons why people stay in toxic relationships. When I say attachment trauma, people from emotionally neglectful or abusive homes can often create these dynamics in adult relationships. Yeah, they are in abusive homes, they are neglected in their homes. So it is easy to often recreate these dynamics in adult relationships. You stay because you have been left alone before, you have been neglected before as a child. And so you're like, everyone that I get attached to leaves me. So if this one has chosen to be with me, I will stay with them, even when you see all these things they are doing with you that are not right. But you're like, maybe I'm getting what I deserve. Maybe this is what a good relationship should be like. Maybe this is how I should be treated after all. Maybe this is reality. When actually it's not. You deserve better. I'll read a message, a text that is just coming. Lillian, keeping up appearances, people need to be real. That is very true. We need to be real in our relationships, but God help the African community, my goodness. We tend to do that a lot. I mean, you meet me, I pretend like I'm the happy person, regardless of what you say, whether it's insulting or not. You treat me a certain way that is not right, but I bear because uh, people will see, or people will start thinking about me. And so you present this front before people that things are okay, when actually you're breaking apart, you're falling apart in your own home. So keeping up appearances is one of those things. Yes, thank you, Lydian, for that comment. Another one that I noted that is an answer as to why people stay in toxic relationships is the low self-worth. I mean, when your partner constantly devalues you, you start to believe you don't deserve anyone at all. I mean, he constantly tells you. I know of a gentleman who constantly told his woman, "You have ugly legs, like the drumsticks that they used to drum the drums on Kawaka's birthday." And the man would get drunk and say those things many times to this lady. All the time, all the time. And the lady would cry that you are so ugly. Your legs are the ones they used to drum the Kawakas, the king's uh, birthday drums. Because the Kawaka in Uganda or the king in Uganda, in Buganda, when it's his birthday, apparently they drum certain drums and they use certain sticks to to hit those drums. So he would say those words over and over and over, but the woman would stay and stayed with this man and had a child with this man, and this child grew up to, I think, primary level that the woman got the guts to leave. But every time he would get drunk, that is what he would say. So low self-worth can cause a person to stay in a toxic relationship when actually, if you only realize that you're better than that, you can pack up and leave and do better than what he has reduced you to. Because you think about it, you had the same legs when he was getting interested in you. Now that you're starting to see the real him, he's reminding you how you've got certain legs that do not deserve or don't belong. Don't you think he's playing mind games on you here? Because if he was drawn to you before and started a relationship with you before, with the same legs. I mean, they've not just changed now that we've been in a relationship 6 months down the line or two. It is him. He's toxic. You need to realize that and run. That is my take. But I'll read a message as well. And Lillian says also people stay in a relationship, stay in toxic relationship, especially when they have been together for a long time and start believing that they are too old to move on. Oh my goodness. That is so right. Especially in our African setting. You can stay in a toxic relationship where you know it's not going anywhere. This person is not going to change. They are always pulling you down. They don't have anything good to say about you. They are not supportive in any way. But you stay with them because you start looking at yourself thinking you're too old. No one else can love you. You might as well stay with this old rag, since it can provide shelter, and before the public you look like you've got it all together, and you stay. But that is also wrong. Staying in a relationship with a person simply because you see you have grown old and no one else can love you or appreciate you. That is a good one, Lillian. And Alan says, some women believe if the man does not beat you, then he doesn't love you enough to care. Yeah, that is one of those reasons people stay, because we believe it, that if a person cares enough or loves you enough, they they will beat you. This also brings us back to the other point that I mentioned, why people stay in toxic relationship, the attachment trauma. I mean, you grew up at home. Probably that is what you saw, your father hitting your mother constantly. And so when you get into a relationship, you think that is how things should be. So if a man doesn't beat you, you start thinking maybe, "Oh, I've lost it." So you do provocative things so he can beat you and keep that drama going. But that drama is all foolishness, because at one point he can hit you and you die. Then what? Or you sustain serious injuries that cannot be easily fixed. So I'm thinking, if that is your take as well, it's a bad one. It's not good. We should change the way we think about relationship. It shouldn't be that if a person doesn't beat you, then the love has gone cold. No, that is not, that shouldn't be the case. And Audrey says, wow, that is simply being a narcissistic, a masochist. Because how can one think love derives from pain unless they want it in some abnormal way? Yeah, but like I said earlier, it is because of the attachment trauma. People from emotionally neglectful or abusive homes often recreate these dynamics in adult relationships. I mean, that is what they grew up seeing, and so they go looking for the same. They think that is what life should be. A person who hits you hard, loves you hard. A person who doesn't, they have no clue as to what love is. And so that relationship is boring. You need to leave it and go to one where you hit like a drum constantly. Ah, and Lillian says, Alan, is that true? Alan says some women maintain relationships with drama. And that is very true. I've actually met a lady who says the moment you lose the drama, it's boring. You've got to go on to another one where there's excitement, where there's life. Yeah, so it's very true. Some people really go for drama in their relationships, where he hits you, you fight, and the neighbors get to hear, come in to help, and then the next day you've made up and things are back for about 2 3 days. Then you're back at it, fighting like animals. Yeah, it is true. And now another reason why people stay in such relationship is the hope for change. The hope for change is one of those reasons why people stay in toxic relationship. Abusers are not always abusive. Moments of kindness keep hope alive. Now, the hope that they will change can keep them in a toxic relationship. Remember, we are talking about reasons why people stay in toxic relationships. One is the low self worth, the attachment trauma, and now it is the hope for change. If you think your partner will change, I mean, he hits you today, and you're like, but he will change. I think I must have done something to provoke him to that. That keeps you in that relationship. Abusers are not always abusive. Moments of kindness keep that hope alive. I mean, you're like, okay, he beat me today. Maybe I provoked him. And when they are kind, oh my goodness, they go to the moon. Like I told you, this man who would do things to his wife or girlfriend and then send her off to Dubai, to for peace. He would send her off to Dubai for shopping for a week When she comes back, he's back at it again. And then he's like, oh, how about if you go to, Spain? Do you want to take a trip to Spain? And she kept on flying away for 2 weeks, a week, come back. It's back again. And she learned to bear. Why? Because when he's good, he's really good. And when he's kind, he's really kind. So that kept her in this relationship until it got so bad. Everyone was wondering, when will you realize something is wrong with this man? He cannot hit you, and all you have is hope that he will change. And always take on the blame that I think I may be the one who is triggering him to being this or doing the other. It is him and he's toxic, and you need to run. Let me read a comment. Probably someone has added to what I've just said. And Roger says, why for me I don't see some comments? Oh, I don't know why Roger's